So that's okay for collections, but what should we do about other types of object? Let's suppose that we want to add a find method into our customer records class. So the idea is I want a method which is going to return an object of type customer called find, and we'll pass in the customer's name that we want to try and find here. So it's an object of type string called name. And well, to find the name of the customer is going to be very straightforward actually, because when we add the records to our map, we're actually using the name as the key to our map. So what we should be able to do is say, go to records. We want to get the object that has the key of name, and that's going to be our customer. So that's what we should be able to return. So that's pretty standard Java code. This looks quite harmless, but unfortunately, what we've created here again is some risky code. We've got an escaping reference to our customer object. A client that calls this find method is actually going to get a reference to the customer, which means that they can mutate that customer's state. Now, right now, I don't think we've actually got any methods on our customer class that let you change any of the properties. But let's suppose we had a set name method. In fact, I think we'll put one in here. So let's put that up here. And then it's going to be absolutely standard set name method. We'll just do this.name equals the name passed into the method. Now, what we can do by calling find customer is actually change our customer's name. So I'll just demonstrate this. If we go back to our main method, I'm going to remove the call to clear because that's not relevant for this particular example. But what I could do is say, well, we know we've added two customers, one with the name of John, one with the name of Simon. If I wanted to change John's name to Jane, let's say we'd got it wrong, I could do something like records.find the customer with the name of John, and then we can call set name and change it to Jane. So now when I loop through, I expect what we'll see is Jane and Simon rather than John and Simon. Let's save this and run it. And indeed, we've got Simon and Jane. And interestingly, the customer with the name of Jane still actually has a key of John. If I do after my looping, records.find John, and that's going to be a customer, what we should be able to do is print out that customer. We should see Jane printed out to the console again. Let's run that and see. And yes, our record with a key of John has been changed to the name Jane. So we've got an escaping reference to our customer that we've been able to mutate. So the solution to this problem, to the escaping reference, which is here, where we provide a reference to an object outside of the class, the solution is going to be to try and create a read-only copy of our customer object. So that's possible, but once again, it needs some work. And once again, there's a few different options for how to achieve this. The first is to create a copy constructor for the class. What we could do is create a constructor which lets us pass an existing object into it, a bit like we saw with the collections constructors. So that's quite easy to do. In the customer class, we've got a constructor at the moment where we can pass in a string. We could create a second constructor where we take in a customer. And in here, what we can say is that this.name is our existing customer's name. We'll have to call getName there. And that should create a brand new customer from our existing customer class, but with the new customer's name property set as appropriate. And of course, if we had other private properties up here, we'd set them as well down here. So now when we say get the customer down here, rather than returning the customer from records.get, what we're going to return is a new customer, passing into the constructor for that new customer the existing customer that we found in our records collection. That should fix the problem. If I save this and we'll rerun the code. So this time, even though we found our customer called John and we set its name to Jane, when we loop through and when we print out at the end our customer's John, both times we get John printed out. And that's happened because although this didn't give us any errors when we called setName to Jane, it happened on our copy of the John object. The underlying John object wasn't affected by the change that we made.